morning, everyone, and welcome to the No Limits Munch and Learn session this morning. I've got my coffee charged and ready to go. Hopefully, you've got yours. Delighted to be. Cheers, Louise. I'm delighted to be joined by Louise Towler this morning. She's not only founder of a great web-based business, which I think is 7 years old. Am I right?
Longer than that. We changed our name, but yeah, we've been Indigo Tree for 7 years.
Well done on that, because you know there's not many that actually last that long as businesses. It's saddens me to say, but it's great to celebrate those that do. And you're an Innovation Award winner.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What have you got? Because you've got something exciting coming down the line, haven't you, in a new business? Do you want to give people a snippet of that as well?
Of course, yeah. Thank you. Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me, James. Yeah, so I've been running a digital marketing agency, Indigo Tree. We're based in Tring, and 2 or 3 years ago, we were thinking about website performance and sustainability, particularly, and how we can contribute towards net zero. And we came up with an idea of measuring the carbon footprint of a website with the intention of then being able to reduce it. We've now built some software, we've got a working prototype, and I think we're going to talk about some of the help I've had along the way to make that happen during this call, but we've now got pre-seed investment as well. So I'm just at the moment signing terms with an investor, and then we will
really exciting
an influx of capital to actually take it from a working prototype to market next year.
Fantastic, because not that many people realise that you know, if you do stuff online, it's still got a footprint. There's still loads of data houses with massive fans whirring away, aren't there?
Yeah, data is a proxy for electricity, and electricity is a proxy for carbon. So if you're transferring data to and from your browser, or you're on this call and you're using lots of data, with the video conferencing, then that all takes electricity. And in addition, there's actually also the embedded carbon of all the equipment. All those big data centers take a lot of carbon to actually manufacture all the equipment. And then they also have water cooling as well, a lot of them, which will also affect the environment too.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about that later on. Perhaps we'll have you back on for the launch of that when you've got it all ready to hit the market.
Delighted to, yeah.
Excellent. So today's session is all about grants, how you can take advantage of stuff that's out there to accelerate your business. I had a quick chat to Louise the other day, and I think she's a total, was it 14?
Yeah.
Right, so do you want to...
various courses, grants, awards, bits and pieces where it's either been fully funded or partly funded, and I've had help from external organisations.
Well, that's fantastic. I think one of the reasons I invited you on, so I don't think everyone is really aware of some of the help out there or how to go about getting it. So, what's your story? Perhaps you could give us a flavour of some of the kind of help and support that you've been able to tap into, Louise.
Sure. So if you sort of roll back 2 or 3 years to 2020, in the middle of COVID, one of the things that I did, which was a bit of a leap of faith at the time, was I recruited an engineering director for our agency. And I was coincidentally talking to Parts Growth Hub, who are an organisation that help businesses in Hertfordshire grow, and they have pots of funding, and they particularly had funding for to help businesses during COVID. It was called Respond, Adapt, Strengthen, so it was literally quite a broad pot of money, and you just had to put up a good case of what you wanted to spend it on. And that money paid for a top-of-the-range MacBook for my new employee. So, there's all sorts of bits and pieces out there if you go and look. And what I would do is if you're in Hertfordshire, is go and speak to the Hertfordshire Growth Hub. They tend, even if they haven't got the money, they are very well connected with the university, the local enterprise partnership. went to other organisations, and they've done quite a lot of signposting for me on the help that's been out there as well. Roll forward a bit, I had a call from someone at university asking if we were interested in doing any research and development, and at the time we just had this idea of thinking about sustainability and website performance. So I started talking to them, and we ended up with a joint project which ran for 7 or 8 months, 50% funded. So we had a developer 50% funded, and then we had some user research 50% funded as well. And that was in conjunction with the university.
Do they give resources into that, do they?
Yeah, I had one of their professors helped me design some user research to go out and talk to marketing teams about what they knew about how to edit websites, how to make them more sustainable. And then we did a little bit of research around what they would want to see. And there was very little knowledge. It was that made us realise that we had to simplify what we were doing in terms of the communication. And I think whenever you're doing anything innovative, my piece of advice is go out and talk to users before you spend too much time building anything, because we actually, and I don't mind saying this, we got it wrong. We sort of mocked up some interfaces, and the people we spoke to couldn't understand them. We went back based on their feedback and re-engineered it in terms of the mock-ups. It was really helpful because we could have spent 6 months building something and then found that out afterwards.
Yeah, well, it's always good to get early feedback on stuff like
that. Really early feedback, and it can be really crude mock-ups. You know, you don't have to make things polished to get that early feedback, but it was absolutely invaluable.
And I guess as you were saying that, it just struck a chord within me that I guess for the majority of people, you think grants and you think cash, don't you? But
it's not always cash.
Sometimes, no, it sounds like there's far more than you can tap into. Just that it's like the resource of university lecturers or students. That
so
kind of could be really invaluable.
Part of the ethos of that particular grant, it was called a knowledge transfer. It was about, we'd never gone out and done any user research. So part of it was the knowledge transfer of how do you approach a user research project. So part of it was literally showing us how to do it, so that then if I now want to go and do some user research on our prototype, I don't need any help. I know how to go about organising it. So a lot of it is learning, and a lot of it is about taking advantage then of whatever it is you learn. The one that perhaps is not necessarily, you've got to be really careful about the criteria is, I also applied and got a Help to Grow course, which is something that the Small Business Charter run. And that was a 12-week course. I did it at Brunel University at the time. It was 3 or 4 hours a week with a couple of half days as well, over 12 weeks. And that was like a little mini MBA. The University of Hertfordshire are also running them. I think their next one starts in January. But there's some criteria around, you have to have more than, I think, 5 employees. You have to be a little bit careful, but what I would do is go, if you're smaller than that, I would go and speak to the university and find out if you can twist a few arms, because I know they've got lots of places for those sorts of courses and they're trying to recruit business. For a lot of these grants and awards, the reason the money is there is because the government or the funding body wants to increase growth in the economy and employment. So if you can have a good argument of why doing what you want to do and taking advantage of the course or the grant will increase employment, then often you can be quite successful. It's about understanding the rationale behind why the money is there. So Help to Grow.
It's like when we're advising anyone on sales or marketing, there's a very simple what's in it for them. So just you've got to put your government hat on and go, what would they get? Would they get some growth? Would they get something sustainable? Would they get
often
jobs created?
3 or 6 months after the end of the funding thing, I will get a little survey through where I have to fill it in and say, you know, how many jobs have been secured, how many jobs have been created. And you can be honest about it, but essentially, you know, that's what they're looking for. They're looking to show the impact of the money that has been spent. And the other thing to bear in mind with a lot of these pots of money is that if the grant or the funding body doesn't spend it, they don't get to keep it, they have to hand it back. So it's in their interests to get good applicants through. So I would also speak to them as well, because if you're not sure whether you're eligible, often they can help you make sure the argument is formed in a way that makes you easier to.
Yeah, I guess it's in their interest to give you the money if it's for the right reason. So
yeah, you've just, but often the criteria is quite tight. And then I think the big one for us was as a result of the Help to Grow course, I was looking around and then I got an email actually from a contact of mine saying, have you seen this, Louise? And that was a Women in Innovation Award competition run by Innovate UK. And because we were starting to form quite concrete plans about our sustainability software, I thought, oh, I'll just apply. It was actually, I didn't quite realise at the time quite how prestigious it was. And I also didn't quite realise when I started filling in the application how long it would take me to do. That took me 3 to 4 solid days of my time.
Just the application.
And that's out of the business, you know, that's time I am not spending running my business. But I was fortunate enough to be one of the competition winners, and that came with a funding pot of £50,000. And that was transformational, because at that point, we had the funding to take developers from Indigo Tree off billable work and basically put it on work towards building the software. And it also paid for some branding and design and some marketing collateral and some other things that we would need to help market our software. So that made a massive difference. And then the other thing that did was when people knew I was a competition winner, and there was press releases and speaking opportunities and things, that also raised my profile, and suddenly I got a bit more attention as well, which then meant I started to have people coming to me saying, have you considered this? Have you considered that? As a direct result of that, I ended up on a sustainability accelerator at the University of Hertfordshire, which was sort of 3 to 6 months helping me with some very particular mathematical calculations. And I also ended up with an Innovate UK Edge Advisor run from the, I think no, it's run from the local enterprise partnership and the university. And she then started signposting other awards and grants at a slightly more than Hertfordshire level, so sort of more of a national level. So we ended up with an IP audit. We ended up with a grant towards a draft patent application. And
you've almost become easy for the government to give money to.
Yeah. It's a fundable thing what we're doing. I think with this particular bit of it, because it's around sustainability and carbon footprint and net zero, you've got to remember that's one of the priorities for funding. It may not be what the government are saying they're prioritising at the moment, but when you look at Innovate UK and their streams of work, we're doing something very specific in the digital space. But you know, if you're in agritech or you're in fashion, then or you're looking at AI, there's lots and lots of funding out there and competitions and awards. They're all really specific in their criteria. Yeah. So it is like filling in an exam paper, you know, please say in 400 words why X, Y, and Z is important for you, you know, and you literally have 400 words and you have to make the argument really well. But the Help to Grow course helped me with things like understanding the UN Sustainable Development Goals and how that translates into government policy. And so it helps you get the right jargon, because some of it is about language. as I say, it's like passing an exam. You know, you have to use the right words.
Absolutely. And some of them are competitions, aren't they? You're up against other people.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are competitions.
You
know, we've had some more recent ones. There was one called A for I where that's slightly different to the usual ones, where basically you submit an idea and then organisations decide if they want to interview you and then partner with you to take the idea forward. So we ended up working with the Newton Gateway for Mathematics on some very particular estimations and calculations around digital carbon footprint.
Right.
And that I wouldn't have known about it at all if I hadn't been signposted. But then actually also my Innovate UK Edge advisor phoned them up and said, look, I've got this client with this particular thing. Do you think they'd be eligible? So, and that again was a 3 days of filling in the application. And then there was 3 rounds of interviews. And then we had another application to fill in. But just last week I had all our time paid for, £10,000 worth of our time was paid for and our expenses for the 3-month project that we did in conjunction with them. So
I know you're very driven, Louise. I can imagine you know making.
But there's other things that are less pressured levels. So, for example, the NatWest run an accelerator for small businesses. That's free to get on. You have to be interviewed, but I was on that for 3 or 4 months. It was okay. It wasn't brilliant, but it was interesting to meet new people, and there were 1 or 2 interesting topics covered. I also was on a fully funded course funded by the Arts Council for people in creative industries or people doing, I think sustainability was the hook that got me on that. That was run through the British Library. That was completely brilliant because I got access to British Library research resources, and a researcher produced a whole load of information for me on target audiences and lists of companies that we should be going out and ethically stalking, if you like, when we start marketing our new. And a whole load of background on all the legislation and things. So, and that was a really, really good course. It was, 2 or 3 hours a week for quite a few weeks, but you've got to value your time and work out whether you're going to get a return on the investment. And some of these have been amazing and not cost me a penny. And I'm on one at the moment, run through Hertfordshire LEP and STU, which is an organisation that does training, and that's a net zero reporting course, which is apparently a level 4 from Chartered Institute of Management. And that is really specific because the people on that course are people that I want to sell our software to. So I need to understand what type of reporting requirements they've got.
Fantastic.
And that was 90% funded. So I paid £350 for a 12-week course.
Excellent. And you're going to get all the insights you need about your target market.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. You mentioned return on investment there, and I'm sure there's, there may be a few cynics, not many, because most people who tune into this quite open-minded, but thinking, hang on, I've got to invest 3 days of time in a competition. I don't know I'm gonna win. Now that's their choice ultimately, whether they can afford that time. But is there any advice that you could give them to help them make those choices objectively?
I treat it for the competitions where there's, or the funding things where there's actual pots of money.
Yeah,
I would spend a couple of days of my time if that was a client proposal. So I look at it as,
okay.
This is a commercial thing, and I think that I've also got half an eye on who am I going to meet? What's the benefit from a marketing perspective or a PR perspective as well? And there's things I don't do because I look at it and I go, actually, this is going to be more trouble than it's worth. And if we're not really quite fitting the criteria, if it's got to be quite a strong argument, And I'm a little bit, sometimes you have that thing of, oh, it's a bit of a square peg in a round hole. I genuinely wouldn't bother because they are very competitive. The Innovate UK ones, the national ones, they're blind judged. So you get to see what the judges say, but the questions that are marked, all the judges, there's 5 judges, they just give you a mark out of 10. And then they take however many people are in the top, top 20 people who top marks, and then it goes to a committee or a board, and then they judge whether people are worth funding. So, I mean, the A4I one, we had 4 out of the 5 judges who loved it, and one of the judges just marked us down. We got through because 4 out of the 5 gave us very high marks. But you are dependent on the mark. Yeah. Sometimes it's luck.
It plays a part, but you've got to be in it. Yeah. Okay. Indeed, you have. But really good advice in terms of, being confident it's the right area to suit you and your business, that you've got a chance of winning. Because I guess some people could get carried away with the kind of FOMO of missing out on the cash.
I think I would start locally. So I would start with the local growth hub. I would start with Hertfordshire Let, the Chamber of Commerce often know about things. In our area, Decorah and Borough Council send out a business-focused email newsletter every few weeks, and that has information in it about funding locally. So
any one of those 3, your local council or the chamber, will be able to pinpoint you. If you're not in Hertfordshire, we'll be able to pinpoint you to the relevant person.
And there's growth hubs all over the country, and it is down to speaking to their advisors. They're really, really knowledgeable. Yeah. Their job is to help small businesses grow, because small businesses, they employ the majority of the people in Hertfordshire. You hear about all the big businesses. They're the ones who get all the fame and fortune, but actually small businesses employ way more people.
Absolutely, we're the backbone of this economy.
Yeah,
and I think you've done something that other people might not think of. So I know in the Hertfordshire Growth Club, they've got an online platform, haven't you, where you can actually go and look up grants.
And Innovate UK have as well. And you need to be signed up for all these things. Sign up for the newsletters. Once a month, I will go on Innovate UK's website and just check out what's there. And then, depending on what type of business you have, the other thing I also do is signpost occasionally to some of our clients from Indigo Tree. So certainly for some of the local grants, the Hertfordshire grants around building back better and around growth, it's often marketing and websites is part of the criteria that you can use the funding for. So if I've got a client who's thinking about maybe improving their website or maybe redesigning it, I will signpost to them and say, if I know about something, I'll say, go and look over here. And we've had a good £60,000–70,000 worth of business from me signposting to clients that there might be a grant out there, and they've ended up with a website that's been 50% funded.
Fantastic. Well, do give us a shout out when that comes up. I'm sure many can benefit from it.
You've got to dance the dance. You've got to meet the criteria, but basically our clients can go away and do that. And then, ironically, because of the Help to Grow course, and that was really quite a catalyst for me thinking about scaling this way beyond what it was originally planned to be, which was just a small bit of software for Indigo Tree clients. I ended up as a case study for the Small Business Charter, and I've actually ended up getting them as a client because they needed a WordPress website. So nice. that was one of the largest projects we've ever done for them. So that was all through being interviewed by their marketing manager, and then finding out that actually we have more in common than just Help to Grow. So it's about taking opportunities. I go and speak, as you know. I go on panels. I speak at conferences, and I'm and I do talks like this where I talk about the grants and awards, because actually it's just about raising my profile and raising our profile so that people are aware we exist, and then people come to me. So the carbon reporting course, I didn't know anything about it. SU came to me and said, Louise, would you be interested?
I think that's the difference that I observed just listening to you this morning, is that you've not only, because I could go onto the hub website now and see what's available, and I might conclude that there's nothing applicable to me right now. And at 5 o'clock today, they could launch something new. And it would be wrong of me to conclude that there are no grants or opportunities for education or resource or research available for me. And yet we see people do that every day.
Yeah. And in fact, Wendy, my Growth Hub advisor, she's very good now, because if not, I think there was one last year that I got for some sustainability consultancy to help us assess whether we could become a B Corp. And we're still in the process of sorting things out, but that was £6,000 towards £7,500 of consultancy. So I had to put in 1,500, but I got a lot of value from that grant, and she phoned me up about it, and I happened to have about 50 minutes spare, 9 o'clock one morning, whacked in the application, and by lunchtime they closed it because they'd had so many applications. So the timing was just, but if she hadn't have emailed me and called me, I wouldn't have known about it. So I would say build those relationships. And then, you know, when we did a little mini launch of Canopy, which is the name of our software, I invited her along. You know, if I see her at a networking event, I make a point of going and speaking to her and saying, hi, how are you? To get updated on what we're doing. You build those networks and relationships. I don't ask for anything, but you get, you know, what goes around comes around. If somebody wants me to talk about something, or somebody wants a recommendation,
excellent.
I will do.
I think that sounds like how you master it. You know, the proactivity and continuing those relationships sounds like a massive part of you, not only winning these grants, but making sure that you've probably gone on to win loads of business that you wouldn't have otherwise got if you hadn't been engaged in some of these activities.
I think it's raised our profile as an agency more as well, and definitely I'm not sure if we've won more work, but it's definitely got me in the room. It's got me to the point where I get an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to some degree it can only ever do that, can't it? Because you've still got to win on merit, any business, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Are there any other parting tips on this whole subject that you're dying to, you haven't had the opportunity to share, Louise?
Well, I would say my main piece of advice is, if you've got more than 5 employees, or whatever the current criteria is,
I believe it's 5, yeah.
Yeah, go on the Help to Grow. But if you're less than 5, if you're 3 or 4, I would go and speak to Hertfordshire University and twist their arm actually and see if you can get on it anyway. My second one would be curious. Don't be passive. So go out and look. So local council, Herts Growth Hub, Hertfordshire LEP, I'm just reading a list: Hertfordshire Chamber, University of Hertfordshire, Small Business Charter, Innovate UK. I subscribe to those newsletters. And yes, we all hate having those newsletters piling into our inbox, but I do actually read them. It's not that much time a month, but it keeps me up to date with what's going on. And then I would definitely just go out and talk to people, pick up the phone, find out if someone will give you some advice. Wenta is one organisation I haven't got involved in particularly, because I've been involved in the Growth Hub, but they do things as well. So I would just find your tribe of people who you can surround yourself with, who know who you are, and then they will start to come to you and signpost opportunities to you when they know enough about what you're doing.
And interesting, quite a lot of those organisations are linked. They all know each other, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
If you are just a one-person business, and when to which, I guess my experience of it's more educational based, is the only access and start point available for you right now, then go to that, because they will probably start building the relationships and introducing you to people that you can benefit from later on.
You know, certainly for some of these organisations, they're looking for speakers. So someone like you, James, go along and do a talk for them and raise your profile that way and get it out on social media. And certainly when it comes to things like the Growth Hub, keep them up to date if you do get a bit of success. The Growth Hub are in the process of doing some video and case study about me at the moment, because they're looking for that PR, for those good news stories, and even little bits of progress and it's rewarding for them to see the benefit of their hard work. So make sure you keep people up to date.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Louise. I think I've got some actions from today. I've certainly got some tips. Thank you for sharing. Please do, if you, in your regular reviews of stuff, if you notice anything, particularly if it's half price website, then let people in the community know. We'd be delighted to hear from you. So thank you very, very much for joining us this morning.
You're most welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. I'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
Take care.